Something woke Daniel Reeves at 2:13 a.m., a slow, deliberate scratching from inside the bedroom wall, too controlled to be an animal. He lay still, heart pounding, listening as it grew louder, then stopped altogether. Just as he exhaled, a soft whisper slid through the plaster like warm breath on cold glass. Daniel, his blood ran cold. He turned on the lamp, forcing himself to lean toward the wall, every muscle trembling. There was only silence. He stepped back, relief barely forming, when the whisper returned, closer this time, almost touching his ear. "I'm still here, Daniel." He spun around, expecting someone standing behind him, but the room was empty. The house creaked deeply, almost like lungs expanding, as if the entire structure were alive and listening. Something heavy shifted behind the wallboards, crawling slowly, purposefully, knowing exactly where he stood. He grabbed his phone, but the signal cut out instantly, screen flickering with static. He backed away until he reached the far corner of the room. Then a new whisper came, deeper, colder, sounding like it came from just behind his shoulder. "I've missed you." Daniel froze. The house wasn't settling. The noise wasn't random. Whatever lived inside those walls knew his name. And it wasn't done. Daniel rushed outside the next morning for fresh air, but even under the sun, the memory of the voice clung to him. His elderly neighbor, Mrs. Kessler, stood by her mailbox, staring at his house with a look that made his stomach twist. "You moved in," she said quietly, almost mournfully. "Has it spoken yet?" Daniel went cold. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Don't answer it, no matter what it says. That's how it begins." Before he could press her, she turned and hurried into her house, slamming the door like she was afraid something might follow her inside. Confused and shaken, Daniel walked back home. The moment he stepped through the front door, the air felt heavier, charged with something unseen. As he walked down the hallway, a soft tapping began behind the wall, matching his pace-like footsteps, trailing him from inside the structure. He stopped, the tapping stopped, he walked faster, it hurried with him. Then, from deep within the house, the same whisper drifted out, gentle but chilling. "Daniel, why won't you talk to me?" His heart hammered. Mrs. Kessler's warning echoed loudly in his mind. "Do not answer." That night, even with headphones blasting, he still heard the creature whispering through the noise. "Daniel, I know you hear me." By the third day, Daniel was losing his grip. The walls whispered at dawn, tapped through breakfast, and shifted loudly at night like bones cracking in the dark. Determined to prove it was nothing supernatural, he bought tools and decided to check inside the walls himself. He chose the bedroom first, the place where it first spoke. With trembling hands, he drilled a small hole. The moment the drill bit pierced the plaster, the entire house trembled as if reacting in pain. Daniel crouched and peered into the hole, expecting insulation or wires. Instead, he saw only darkness. Then something in that darkness blinked. A pale eye stared back at him, unblinking, impossibly close. Daniel stumbled back, dropping the drill. Before he could react, the hole widened from the inside, the wood cracking outward as if thin fingers were pushing to break through. He panicked and slapped tape, plaster, anything, to cover the hole. From behind the wall came a soft, satisfied laugh. "You saw me," the voice whispered. His stomach twisted. That night, he found a message etched on the inside of his closet door, carved deep with what looked like claws. "I like our home. I like you, let me in." The letters weren't written, they were gouged. Daniel hadn't slept properly in days. Every night the creature crawled behind the walls, its movements too smooth, too large, too coordinated. Sometimes it moved across the ceiling. Other times it slid down to the floor with unimaginable grace. He sat in the living room gripping a baseball bat, every sound making him flinch. Then came a violent thump. Then another. Then several at once, thudding from all directions like dozens of limbs hitting the walls. The drywall near the hallway began to bulge outward, as if something enormous was pressing its face against it. Daniel held the bat out in shaking hands. The bulge grew until a distorted face pushed through the plaster, skin stretched thin, eyes wide and too shiny, mouth too long, smiling. "Daniel," it said, voice vibrating through the walls. "Open the wall, please." He dropped the bat and ran outside. Mrs. Kessler was already waiting, trembling. "You shouldn't have drilled it," she whispered. "You woke it up." "What is it?" Daniel begged. She shook her head. "It isn't alive. It's remembering." Before they could say more, something slammed against Daniel's front door, so hard it cracked down the center. Then a deep, monstrous voice roared from inside, "Let me out." Desperate for answers, Daniel drove to the county records office the next morning, demanding anything about the house. The clerk's face changed instantly at the address. He retrieved an old file thick with dust. The house belonged to the Hawthorne family in the 1980s. 3 children lived there. All 3 claimed something lived in the walls. All 3 vanished inside the home within a single year. Their bodies were never found. One police report described an officer hearing a child whispering from inside the walls during the search. Daniel felt sick. He closed the file and raced home. When he arrived, the front door was wide open. Every light was on. His stomach knotted as he walked inside. Dusty, child-sized handprints covered the walls. Some were smeared, some too high to be from children. At the end of the hallway, he found new words carved deep into the wood, deeper than any tool could make. "You opened the wall." "Now I can open you." Daniel stumbled back, and then he heard it, not inside the house, not in the walls. The whisper came from the backyard shed. "Daniel," it said, slowly, greedily, "I followed you." Daniel locked himself inside his car, hands shaking uncontrollably as he dialed 911. But the screen filled with static instead of ringing. Through the static came the creature's whisper, clearer than ever. "You can't run, Daniel. I know your name. I know your breath. I know your bones." He dropped the phone in panic. The house lights flickered violently as something slammed against the exterior siding, crawling around the house with unnatural speed. Then, in the darkness, Mrs. Kessler approached clutching an old prayer book. Her eyes filled with terror. "It attaches to homes," she said, "but it prefers people. It wants someone to answer it. That's how it gets inside." A loud crack echoed behind them. Daniel looked up just in time to see a long, gray arm sliding through a splintered crack in the kitchen window frame. Fingers impossibly long, nails scraping the wood. The hand waved slowly. "Daniel," it whispered, "please talk to me. I'm lonely." He covered his ears, shaking violently as the voice grew louder, echoing both outside and inside his mind. "Answer me," it demanded. The pressure on his skull tightened like cold hands gripping the inside of his thoughts. At exactly 4:12 a.m., the house finally broke open. A deafening crack split the hallway wall from ceiling to floor. Plaster burst outward like an explosion, and something tall and impossibly thin began crawling out. Its limbs folded and unfolded like broken branches. Its joints bent in the wrong directions. Its head twitched unnaturally fast, eyes glowing like wet glass catching moonlight. Daniel stumbled backward, screaming. Mrs. Kessler grabbed him, pulling him toward the front door, but it slammed shut on its own, locking them inside. The creature stepped fully into the hallway now, its height stretching to the ceiling, its chest heaving with slow, rattling breaths. It tilted its head, smiling with a mouth that split too wide. "Thank you for letting me out." It whispered. "I didn't," Daniel started, then stopped, realizing his mistake too late. The creature's smile widened grotesquely. "You answered me," it said softly. "Now we're connected." Something invisible clamped around Daniel's ribs, squeezing them until his vision blurred. With every breath the creature took, he felt his own lungs respond. "Mrs." Kessler screamed, "don't let it inside you." But Daniel could already feel something cold spreading through his veins, crawling under his skin, merging with him. By morning, the neighborhood was silent. Smoke floated from Daniel's shattered windows. Sheriff Donovan arrived first, pushing through the broken door. Inside, the house was a ruin, walls torn open, floorboards splintered, claw marks covering every surface. But no bodies, no Daniel, no Mrs. Kessler. Just an oppressive silence that made his skin crawl. Near the living room, something was carved deeply into the wood floor, letters jagged and violent. "He let me out." Donovan swallowed hard and turned to leave. But before he stepped out, a faint sound interrupted the quiet. Tap, tap, tap. He froze. The noise came from inside the walls. He stepped closer. The tapping grew faster, more frantic. Then a whisper drifted through the cracks, soft, trembling, almost human. "Sheriff Donovan." His heart stopped. "Let me out, please." He ran for the door, slamming it behind him as the whisper grew louder. Inside the walls, something moved again, crawling, shifting. A new voice, Daniel's voice, echoed faintly from deep within the structure. "My name is Daniel. Help me." The creature had found a new home, a new identity, a new voice, and it was only getting hungrier.